Good morning and welcome to Morning Java, which I'm happy to say for the first time is brought to you by Get Go Cafe and Market. For a limited time, try the smokestack pulled pork sandwich and sub.
This thing is slow smoked for 16 hours.
16 hours, the man
hours.
says. You can, it's right here too. We're going to leave it out here for the duration of this opening segment just to tempt us here, the slow smokedness.
I can smell the smoke
of it here. Let's talk a little about Steelers OTAs as long as you're in the house here.
Okay.
Anything strike you in the opening week?
Yeah, I thought that as the week went on, the young quarterbacks, that being Mason Rudolph and Josh Dobbs.
No, it's just Rudolph. There's no other young quarterbacks, right?
True.
Josh Dobbs doesn't exist. But Landry Jones has ceased to be a thing.
He's just not even there. But I thought Ben Roethlisberger was not there the third day.
Right.
And I thought that they all got equal kind of playing time or snaps, and the young guys really kind of took a step forward.
There's less pressure. They're not measuring themselves against Ben. The first day of OTAs.
The first day everybody wants to shove
I couldn't help. Yeah, but at the same time, they were all trying, including Ben, I might add, were trying so hard. Ben was doing these deep passes, bullet throws, stuff he never does at OTAs.
Well, the first day, when you have competition like that, and whether it's perceived competition or in reality competition, there's always that you want to put your best foot forward.
You like Rudolph?
Yeah, I do. I like him a lot.
Why?
I think he's accurate. I think he's got a strong arm, strong enough. It's not super strong.
Effortless.
Effort. Yeah, and I just think he has the head on his shoulders to be a franchise-type quarterback.
That's the one thing we've heard, you and I, more than anything else from these players out there, is they like what he's bringing to the huddle. They like his presence in there. So actually, we ate the sandwich in the time that it took that coffee cup to go across the screen here. To the young quarterbacks, Josh Dobbs has no chance of making this roster, does he, barring injury?
Well,
what do you do with him, basically?
I look at it this way. In 1995, they did keep 4. They had drafted Cordell Stewart that year. They had Jim Miller, who they had drafted the year before in the 6th round.
Yeah.
And you also had Mike Tomczak, and you had Neil O'Donnell. They knew Neil O'Donnell was going to be a free agent at the end of the year, and so they kept four of those 3 backups and the starter in effect to set themselves up for the following year. Now, next year, Landry Jones is an unrestricted free agent. So if they think that Josh Dobbs has enough, acumen and thinks enough of him that he can be the number 2 or 3 next year.
And they do, Dale. You know that. They like him. I mean, they didn't draft him I'm not just saying that because they invested the pick that they did in him. I'm saying that because he's made an impression on them on and off the field.
Sure.
And if you go back to the only thing we ever have to watch from these guys, the preseason games, he got better with each progressing game. Remember that?
He did. And, it's tough because as a young quarterback, and I talked to him about this last year, mid-season or so around there, I said, look, you got a lot of snaps. You got almost every snap in the preseason, and then you go from doing that to nothing.
Yeah,
I mean, all you're doing is
we had the same conversations.
You're running stuff off of, other teams' stuff off of a play card that they hold up in front of you. Okay, that's what I got to do in this play. You're not running Steelers stuff.
On Sundays, with the inactive rules, can you really afford to be going into games?
You can, as long as you don't have a bunch of injuries. If you have a bunch of injuries that leave you short at a position, now all of a sudden you have to start looking at that and going, okay, can we afford to keep 4 quarterbacks, knowing that 2 of those guys are going to be inactive on game day? That's the tough thing.
That's really tough. Different things were shown in OTAs to some extent this week. Obviously, the one that you reported from a couple of months ago with Bud Dupree moving to the right side, T.J. Watt to the left. The safeties, though, man, that's a work in progress, isn't it?
It is, and it's going to continue to be that. They're switching guys in and out of that deep spot, the single high spot.
And they're coming up to the line.
And they're bringing guys up in the box, and they're mixing and matching. And I think you're going to see a lot of this once the season starts as well. I don't know that they're necessarily going to have a free and strong safety per se. I think there's going to be a lot of those duties are going to be interchangeable, and I think that's what they want. They've got a bunch of guys with similar skill sets, and so if an offense decides to shift or move guys around, trying to get you in mismatches, you just switch your guys around.
Well, who's your center fielder? Is it Burnett?
Again, I don't know that they're going to truly have a center fielder.
You have to have a center fielder, Dale.
None of these guys are true center fielder types. He's done it the most.
Yes, that's why I asked.
He's done it the most, but ideally, at his age now, he's not the ideal guy. You want a fast guy back there who can cover a lot of ground.
Yeah, I understand.
I think
not Mike Mitchell.
Not Mike Mitchell. I think Sean Davis has the physical traits that you're looking for.
But he also has the physical traits, as we saw counter to popular mythology that he actually did a really good job against Rob Gronkowski in tight. He was tight on the guy. They just made perfect passes, perfect catches, and he didn't get support at the line.
There's a reason why Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski are both going to the Hall of Fame.
But if you watch the film carefully, Davis is on him. Not to digress here, but Davis is on him on every one of those catches, and they just made perfect plays.
It's really difficult to guard guys like that.
Anyway, he could also be at the line, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, you can move those guys around, do the things, anything that you want to do with them. It's interesting. I had Will Allen on the radio, the former Steelers safety, yesterday, and we were talking about that very thing. And he said, "Look, you know, the difference between strong and free safety
isn't that great.
There's no difference anymore because opposing teams are trying to get you in those mismatches." He said, "You know, so what's a linebacker or what's a safety? You're seeing a bunch of linebackers now coming into the league that are between 215 and 230 pounds. You want these guys that can run. It's the same thing at the safety position."
Yeah, no question. It's going to be really neat to watch that play out. So the NFL kind of made some kind of legislation. I don't even know how would you describe that thing that they put out about the national anthem the other day?
I would say that they passed it off on the teams.
Yeah.
They kind of just said, "Here, you guys deal with it."
It was Congress saying, we're giving this to the
states'
states.
rights, yeah. States' rights.
Yeah, there was nothing else really to it. There's nothing that's enforceable. There's nothing that could stop one team or another from coming out. And look, for the purposes of what the NFL's trying to avoid, which is more bad publicity with a significant portion of the population, it's not doing anything of the kind because all it'll take is one team, whether that's the New York Giants or the San Francisco 49ers who abstained. The Giants made some noise about it. All it takes is one team for those headlines to come back out of the 32.
Absolutely. And I mean, just look at how it broke down last year with the Steelers. You were in Chicago. I was in Chicago. You know, when you went into the locker room afterwards, everything that they were trying not to do, which was become part of the story, was exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Because and through nothing that they could do about it. I mean, there was really nothing they could do about it. And they were a team that hadn't had a guy kneel, and to this day haven't had a guy kneel.
Yeah. And they had that hard of a time with it. And then, of course, there's the circus whenever they go out to the tunnel, and Allie keeps walking, and they just don't need it. I mean, this is the part that the NFL probably needed, in my opinion, to follow the NBA's lead on this, where Adam Silver just said, look, this is our league. These are our teams. You follow our rules. We're a private employer.
Right. And
we're going to do what's best for business.
Yeah.
And the NBA, and of course all of the other major professional sports leagues, are businesses. Yeah, they're antitrust exempt in a couple of cases, but they're still businesses.
You know, and I understand the people who would say, well, what about freedom of speech? Well,
doesn't
you know
apply.
What?
First Amendment doesn't apply here.
None of us have freedom of speech to do whatever we want to do at our jobs.
Right.
We just don't. Everybody's, you know, your employer tells you what you can and can't put on
plain and simple
on social media.
Yeah.
They tell you what you should and shouldn't wear when you go to work, and what's acceptable and what's not acceptable.
If you're fixing cars in a garage and you spend part of your shift taking a knee or whatever, you know, the boss has every right to tell you, hey, dude, I respect you and your views and everything else, but that tire needs to be changed.
Yeah. The bottom line is working in the NFL, working in the NBA, working at the car dealership or at the garage, that's your choice.
Yep.
Nobody is forced to have these jobs. Somebody asked me on my live Q's the other day, he's seen people try to say that Colin Kaepernick is a hero. And he said, who's the bigger hero, him or Alejandro Villanueva? And I said, look, one of these guys put his life on the line for his country. The other guy put his job on the line for a cause. You tell me which one is the hero.
I can see from the Kaepernick perspective the fact that he did and has willingly, in my opinion, walked away from employment in order to make his case. He's donated millions to the causes that he believes in. So he has raised but he has put his money where his mouth is. Right. There's some element of heroism to what he's doing. I'm not a big fan of comparing.
No, I'm not either.
Heroism. I mean, everybody has different things that they want to do in life. But again, where Kaepernick is concerned, he actually underscores the point that you're making about freedom of speech. Kaepernick can say and do whatever he wants. Absolutely. You know why? Because he walked away from that job, because he walked away from the NFL. He made that choice, he made that decision, and as a result, he's free to say whatever he wants. That actually is the First Amendment in action.